Okay, so we've seen quite a lot of things in this session, so we'll just quickly summarise the things we've gone through and give you some idea of practical work that you can do. So functions we have seen are very similar to sub-procedures in syntax and structure and in use and purpose. The big difference is that functions return or give back a value once they finish executing, whereas sub-procedures simply return to the point of execution from where they were called. Functions and sub-procedures can take either 0 or many parameters, and in reality you'll probably send a maximum of 4 or 5 parameters through to a function, but realistically there's no limit to the number of parameters you can pass across other than what you can mentally conceive of when you are designing a piece of software. Functions can take many parameters, but they can only return a single value, and that value must be of a predefined type. So they can return an integer, a string, a character, or perhaps a more complex data type, but a function can only return one type of data. When we pass parameters into functions, we can do that in two ways. We can do it by value or by reference. The default method is to pass parameters in by value, and when you do this, a new variable is created in the call procedure into which the value of the parameter being passed in is effectively copied, and within the local procedure that variable can then change. It can be updated, reset, initialized, whatever you want to do with it, but all those changes occur in the local copy of the data, and the original variable in the calling code remains totally unchanged. By reference allows us to work in a different way, and when a variable is passed across by reference, rather than the value of the variable being used, it's the memory address of where that variable is actually stored in memory is passed across. So when the local procedure creates its variables, it doesn't allocate new memory, it links up to an existing memory location, which means changes to that variable within the local procedure will change data that is also being referenced by the variable name from the calling code. So local changes are then reflected back in the calling code. So passing by reference allows us to get around the problem of functions only being able to return a single value. We can pass parameters in by reference, and they can then be changed within a sub-procedure or function. However, you have to be careful with programs doing this, because variables can then change or be changed in several locations within a program, and with normal structured programming techniques this isn't necessarily a problem, because the program flow is in a single direction and a single period of execution. Once you start using graphical programs that have multi-threading, or perhaps making calls to databases which involve separate tasks, and what's called multi-threading, or also network communicating programs which might set off one task that then waits for a response from another, then this situation can become not necessarily dangerous, but potentially bug-ridden. So passing by reference is something that you can use, but you have to be careful in how you use it. So in terms of practical work, this lecture or this narrated session included several examples, so I would advise that you pause the video at appropriate points and copy the code. I'll also make the code available on the Blackboard site to go alongside this session, and have a go typing those programs into Just Basic and get them working, and then debug them so that you understand what's going on and how those programs are working. It's really important that you do understand this concept, because it does help you overcome some limitations that you might find with normal programming techniques.